Hello and welcome to Diminishing Returns. We're live, everybody, except not if you're listening to this as a podcast, but we are recording live. Well, we always record live. It's the only way to do it. But in front of other people. We're doing it in front of other people. So, joining us as so often is the one, the only Calvin Dyson.
Yes, hello. I have not had a haircut. I have not had that privilege.
You look like when you were at university with your silver fringe.
Yeah, 2011 looks like came second to last in a Justin Bieber lookalike competition. That kind of look.
And joining us as our host today, as she has joined us many times before, and indeed hosted us for the last live episode we did, it's Emily Slade.
Woo-woo, it's me. Also, non-haircut. And I had a pixie at the beginning of lockdown, and now I have like hair.
Yes,
so
and so if you're not
fun.
watching the video of this, obviously you won't be able to enjoy the delights of our hairstyles. But so we have got some people listening in, some of the usual rogues. Tom Patton has gone missing, as I can see. We've got Peter McCormack is here. Hello. I recognise so many people. Judy, Barney, George. Hello. Grace is here. She's not showing herself. She's ashamed. Some other people are Wilco. But thank you for joining us. This week, because it's a live episode, we didn't want to put too much stress on ourselves with watching a real film, a good film. We watched, not to give my feelings away, we watched a brand new release just out on Netflix called Eurovision. What's the subtitle? Anyone?
Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga.
Story of Fire Saga, a fiction.
I hate that name.
It is a terrible name, isn't it?
Saga sounds like story, so every time it's like I want to say the Saga of Fire story, and
It's also a really good take on kind of like Eurovision band names as well. Like it is sort of going, which I guess I know Alan and Saul are probably not going to be that familiar with the whole concept of Eurovision itself. So
yeah.
Are you implying Emily obviously is the type?
Well, yeah. I mean, if anyone here has no interest in Eurovision or the movie, do you want to come visit me on Animal Crossing on my island? I'm going to get that up on the go. You guys can talk about the film. I'll give out my dodo code. We can go to my little Evil Dead house replica. It'll be great fun.
God.
Why did we choose this film? Saul, you seem to know how to justify this.
Well, you chose it. I was like, should we do something...
Oh, did he?
I was like...
I'm not even surprised.
I was like, should we do something people want to talk about, like Inception? And Alan was like, no, let's do Eurovision because it's coming out. And to be fair, there's 3 reasons, I think. Alan's in it, number 1. We'll be talking about that.
What?
There's barely anything
you
to
spot
talk
him?
about.
Alan's actually in the
Did
film.
you blink?
Very noticeably, he is. Yeah.
No, he isn't.
Not very noticeably at all. But I did work
No,
on it,
he
and I
is
was
in
on
the
the set
film.
for 2 weeks, so I'll be able to share some anecdotes for you. That'll be
But
nice.
you actually on camera, like
Yeah, very briefly in the background.
He
Yeah.
basically touches Will
I
Ferrell's
did touch
leg,
Will Ferrell.
doesn't
I
he?
touched the hem of his garment, and I was no longer blind.
okay.
So that's one reason. Another is Pierce Brosnan's in it, so that's Calvin Dyson points.
And I have a personal anecdote regarding Pierce Brosnan's.
I'm very excited. I'm just going to write anecdotes.
Yeah, what's your anecdote, Saul? What did you and Rachel McAdams get up to?
George Lowe says the only thing that kept him going whilst watching this movie was trying to spot Alan.
Well,
George isn't a fan either. Maybe
have a look
you've seen it,
after
haven't you,
the
Emily?
film.
Like,
It's going to be you and me, Calvin, against the world.
All right.
Don't you worry.
Good,
Don't you worry. And
Okay,
like,
no,
I'm
I'm-
going to be honest. They mentioned it, and I was like, oh, okay. And my sister had already said, like, oh, have you seen it? I really enjoyed it. And I was like, did you though? And then I watched it. Now I'm on your side.
Well, that's the thing. Like, this film was getting horrific reviews up until as it was released, and like it was like Guardian very snide reviews, BBC, all these things were being very
the
like,
Guardian,
1 and
very
2.
snide Guardian, very snide.
But it was all like 1 and 2 star things, and I had my parents visiting. And we just wanted to watch like a crowd pleasing, thing. And they suggested that, and I was like, oh God, are we going to have to watch this because it's going to be terrible? And then we watched it and had a good time with it.
And like, I'd be interested to see what the Guardian said about Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again, because it's the same vibe.
It's the same vibe as Mamma Mia 2. Okay, that's the
But like,
benchmark we're looking at.
it's a fair enough vibe. It has a place in the world, and it has an audience. It very clearly has an audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you haven't seen the film, basically it's the story of an Icelandic duo who go to the Eurovision Song Contest, and Will Ferrell plays the main character. It's always been his dream to go to Eurovision. That's about it, really. There's a bit of a love story in there. But it is an official, like, Eurovision thing. It's been made with the consent and cooperation of Eurovision, the official whoever runs that. So it is very much a kind of love story to Eurovision in some ways, and a celebration of all that nonsense that it does.
I was reading that Will Ferrell is a big fan of Eurovision. Yeah. Apparently his wife's Swedish, and that sort of got him into it. And so I kind of got the impression
he went to one of the live finals. He talks about it with Graham Norton every time he's on. Like, he's a massive fan. So this film clearly came from like a real love and respect of what Eurovision is, which is part of the reason I really loved it. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people hated it, because they were sort of signing up to be like, oh yeah, let's dick on Eurovision because what a piece of shit that is. I don't like those people. I think those people are stupid. But that seemed to be the general consensus, that people wanted it to be more piss-takey rather than like a love letter.
Well, I think perhaps the problem with Eurovision is it's unsatirable because it's completely ridiculous, and it knows it's ridiculous and it embraces it. I mean, that's why they've made a Will Ferrell film, so obviously they know exactly what they're getting. But yeah, you can't take the piss out of Eurovision. Like, what are you going to take the piss out of? They embrace it all.
Yeah, I mean, it struck me as a really odd film in that regard, but I suppose it makes more sense if you know there's an official body like Eurovision approving their choices and what have you, because the main thing that really struck me as weird was the lack of an American presence. There are a couple of characters that, like some American tourists who appear very briefly, but
they're there for Will Ferrell to take the piss out of America. Yeah, that's basically the whole purpose of them.
Yeah, but the obvious thing to do with this, from an American point of view, would be, hey guys, America's just been accepted into the Eurovision Song Contest, and now we need someone to go and represent America. And you have the whole fish out of water
maybe there was
thing,
just there's no avenue for this in America, so let's not bother at all. We'll aim it at the Eurovision.
And I think that would have sucked. I think that would have meant it would have come from a very mean-spirited. It would have been entirely piss-takey, because the main character would have just spent the whole time going, "What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What the fuck's happening over there?" And like, that's not fun. That's like cruel.
Yeah, I agree.
Because at the end they come round to it and they go, "Wow!"
But only after an hour of like
wacky
dicking on it.
Yeah, which is exactly why I think they had those American tourists in there, and they had the kind of anti-American jokes in there. Because I think there was going to be a perception that Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams and everyone are coming over to Europe to be snide about this established thing. And I think they wanted to kind of poke fun at Americans as well, so that it was like, oh no, look, we're poking fun at everyone. This isn't like a mean-spirited thing. We have these characters here to make fun of. I think that's why they were in the film.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they didn't just play Americans. I'm glad that they played Icelandic people. I thought that was quite sweet.
Ice face, that's what we call it. When
it's
perfectly good Icelandic actors who could have played those roles. I don't know any of them, but, you know.
I was prepared to not like it, because I don't like when Will Ferrell does his like man baby thing.
What? Every film he's ever made, you mean?
But like Anchorman
2.
Oh, she's paused. Hang on, she's frozen.
Trying to remember another film with Will Ferrell. Step Brothers.
2.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, no, it's Anchorman. Anchorman's a good movie with Will Ferrell playing a good character. Every other Will Ferrell character can probably just stop.
Look, we discussed this. I don't know if we did it on a proper episode. Did we do a Diminisode on Holmes and Watson, or did we do a full thing?
We did, but it was one of the weird early ones before we launched a Patreon, where we just sort of put it out to the world on our SoundCloud, but I don't think it went out on the feed. So it is there if you haven't listened to it.
I know Sol and I have definitely discussed Will Ferrell a few times, and basically the idea that Will Ferrell's made the same film for the last 20 years, and it does just start to get old after a while. As much as I like him, actually, I like generally... what he does.
He's not just doing that, though, is he? He's making the same film in between interesting kind of projects.
Yeah, but they're never good interesting either, though. Like him making a Spanish soap opera film, not...
T... thinks that Holmes and Watson was better than Eurovision, but from the little I know of Holmes and Watson, I have to disagree.
Nothing is worse than Holmes and
I've never seen Holmes and Watson.
Agree with that, honestly. And you know what I would say up front is Holmes and Watson had a much, much better song in it than anything in Eurovision.
No.
Sol loves the song in Holmes and Watson and then built his opinion of the film around the song.
I've heard this song.
And why does it seem less than right that Watson's going to hang tonight and gasp and thrash and choke until he's dead? What is this strange sensation?
Where did I go wrong?
Why am I a sobbing, trembling
Soon
mess?
my neck will snap in half,
And yet I know somehow,
And
if he could hear
right now,
I would still forgive him.
more or less.
Alan Menken wrote a song, a
there
full-blown
we go.
musical number in the middle of Holmes and Watson, and it's quite a good song. Whereas Eurovision doesn't really have any, like, it's just got a load of songs that kind of sound like they could be real Eurovision songs and therefore are
Yeah, and that's...
crap.
What do you mean, no?
What?
They covered like every kind of Eurovision song, which was really nice because you do have your soppy ballads, and then you've got your big pop like Conchita verse sort of numbers, and then you've got the sort of like they even had like a hard rock one in there from that Finnish group that won like
Lordi!
years ago.
Lordi with
Lordi,
Hard Rock
yeah,
Hallelujah.
Hard Rock Hallelujah.
Oh my, like
Yeah.
come on, like even beyond, because I sent a bunch to my friend this evening and she was like, yeah, they're good, they're really good parody Eurovision songs, and I was like, everyone, they are just good songs.
They're not parodies. That
Well,
is,
I was gonna say
that
they're
the
not.
weird thing.
There's-
They're not. Yeah, if you just played me those songs and said they're from Eurovision, I go, yeah, okay. Like it wouldn't even occur to me that they're fake.
The band playing the band representing Finland is a real band playing one of their actual songs just mixed in. And they're a British band from what I can gather, so I'm not quite sure why they were representing Finland. But
There was a weird kind of just on the nationality thing. I don't know if this is going a bit off topic, but it was like in the end credits, for example, when they have the actors' names come up, they have a little flag from where the actor is. So Will Ferrell, obviously American, Rachel McAdams, Canadian. I was like, oh, this is nice. We're going to see where everyone comes from, and it was like, oh, America, Canada, UK.
Ireland.
That's about it. Oh, Ireland,
There are
yeah,
a few
yeah.
islands.
Pierce Brosnan got his dual
Yes,
nationality
that was
with
nice.
American and Ireland on one side, and I was surprised that there weren't more. There were cameos in there. Sol and Alan probably didn't notice, but there were cameos from former Eurovision
What, in
contestants
that
and
really
winners.
egregious sing-along bit in the middle?
I love
I was
that.
gonna say, like,
that's
if
it. There was
you
this horrible
didn't-
sequence where it was like, who on earth are all these people? Oh, they must
yeah,
be Eurovision
like
people.
the
Yeah,
camera
I
is
get it.
literally like flashing, like these are Eurovision singers. Like even if you don't know
Yeah.
that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like when the woman who sang "Toy" and won a couple years back
Netta.
walked out of that car singing "Tonight's gonna be a good night," I lost it. I was like, this was already this is so much fun. Like this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Like especially if you know who those people are. Like I asked my sister,
Yeah.
I knew there was Eurovision cameos in them, and before I watched it, I was like, did you spot any Eurovision singers? And she went, yes. And I was like, okay, so Conchita must be in it. Like, that's obvious.
Yeah.
It was a joy.
But that's it. It feels like a Eurovision promo that got out of hand and they accidentally made a 2-hour film.
I have to say, when I sat down and saw that it was 2 hours before I pressed play, I was like, oh no, this is not going to be
50 minutes too
2
long
hours.
is what
It
is.
was not 50
I thought it breezed along.
minutes.
At
The end of the day, I was satisfied with it, and when I thought about it, I was like, they could have shaved 15 minutes off, I guess, but like
For the story they've got, you could do it in a 20-minute short. So
Yeah, it's predictable, but
it was extremely basic storytelling.
Well, yeah, but
guess,
they all are these Will Ferrell films. It's like they have that very loose basic structure, and then he improvises and gets people to sort of react.
Exactly.
And, that's how
And
they're
this
made.
film was that without any of the improv. Normally Will Ferrell's allowed off the chain to improv for hours and hours, and they whittle it down to 5 minutes that are hopefully vaguely funny. This felt quite tightly scripted.
What? No,
but the
no.
jokes
what are you
were...
talk- Whoa. I got
Alan's knocked his camera.
wow, I got so
aggressive.
carried away with your erroneous comment there. I nearly lost my camera.
It's like that time when he tipped over a chair in university.
No one seemed like they were having fun riffing on set. And you've got both Demetrius in there and people who were, you know...
I made a note here, like, just will Hollywood and Will Ferrell and Apatow and all them learn, like, make a script and fucking stick to it, or at least use the script. And if you're going to riff on it, then edit it down. Or be
But
funny
this is
with
the problem
it. If it's
is
gonna be a comedy.
Apatow can do it. And I don't think the guy who directed this, who's one major credit, David Dobkin, who's one major credit before this is Wedding Crashers, which again is not a
Oh, he's done a couple of Vince Vaughn
blatantly
films.
improv-heavy film.
That was a while ago as well, that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Wedding Crashers, but it's not a classic Will Ferrell style comedy, although he is in it. It's a very different kind of humour, and I don't know, this felt like it should have been an Adam McKay film, or someone of that ilk, who is willing to get The Lonely Island in for a song, and then, you know, whoever else, Maya Rudolph or someone who's going to come and do a funny song for a minute. But instead, like, we barely really see any song. And Eurovision, you want, like, it should be a breadth away from being a musical. It should be, here's a funny song, here's a funny song.
I disagree.
But they're not funny
They're
songs.
not funny songs.
That's...
And like they were doing a wonderful
that's the point.
they were doing a wonderful evening of Eurovision. You sit down and watch Eurovision, that's 2 hours too long a lot of the times. And 40% of the songs often are time to go get a fucking another bottle of wine, time to go open a bag of crisps, because a country will come on and they'll start singing and you'll be like, what the fuck is this? What, like, where's Greece with alcohol is free? Like, come on, bring on a good one. And this movie was doing snippets of like a highlights reel of like what you can, it was almost like a promo trailer for Eurovision. It was like, here's the kind of thing you can expect. And that was fun.
Is there not a highlights reel of every Eurovision that's ever happened if you want to watch that anyway? I mean, obviously, like, I should say it now, I'm coming from a real place of ignorance with Eurovision. I think I've watched a bit of it once ever. It's not something that... I don't have a problem with it, but it doesn't
Do you remember what
interest
year
me.
it was?
2000 and... I don't know, somewhere between 2012 and 2000 and maybe 14.
Okay.
But Sol, did you, just speaking of Graham Norton there, Sol,
Yeah.
did you think that Graham Norton reminded you of Calvin? Because it jumped out at me. I think it was because it's like his Bond... Sorry, I'm talking as if you're not here, Calvin. It's like his Bond videos where it's like there's a bit of a clip and then it cuts to him and he makes a snarky comment and then it goes back. And then... I mean it in a very positive way, Calvin.
My mum was watching one of my videos in the house where they live, this week, and she was on the phone with me, and she said, I was listening to one of your videos while I was doing the washing up, and my stepdad walked in, and he said, who are you listening to? Is that Graham Norton? And I'm like, I don't even sound Irish. I don't understand.
No, I didn't mean
where
you
that
sounded
comes
like
from.
him. No.
Maybe.
I thought Graham Norton was a real... I don't think he did the film any favours for me, because it just kept reminding me of Father Ted, who've obviously done a vastly superior
My
Eurovision
horse.
satire or loving ode to it.
Oh, that's what that is. Someone in the comments says my lovely horse is a banger, and I was like, I don't know
It
what
is.
that is.
Oh, yeah,
Looking
Barney.
through the fields.
Yeah. But that's it. Father Ted absolutely nailed it, really. And that was a loving ode to Eurovision. It was, it certainly wasn't making fun of it so much as it was making fun of the, politics surrounding it and the characters involved. And obviously Graham Norton was in Father Ted twice. So that's the dots that my brain was connecting. Can we attempt to, because I realise we're kind of jumping around here. Do you want to kind of work through it a bit?
Sure, yeah, that's probably why.
Vaguely chronological
Yeah,
way,
get a bit
just because my
structure
notes
to
are all written out lovely on this piece of
Yeah.
paper.
Go on then, Sol, you guide us. Guide us through the film.
Okay, so do we open on Volcano Man? Or
We
is that
do.
a bit
Well,
later?
there's a like prologue where they're children and he dances to Waterloo after his mum's
yes.
died.
And young Pierce Brosnan is there. I don't know if they just dyed his hair or whatever. Like, he has aged very well. I agree
Yes.
with Tom. He's like fine wine. So I couldn't tell if they'd like done some kind of digital thing or if he'd just like dyed his hair and beard and that was it. But
Maybe give
yeah,
him a little touch up. Do it.
apparently his Icelandic is horrific in that. His pronunciation and everything. I wouldn't know. I've got, but
I
yeah,
can assume.
it was like James Bond trying to speak German.
Also, they're breaking the law because they're drinking beer, and at that time in Iceland, beer had been banned. So
no.
in 1970s, beer was illegal in Iceland.
I was wondering initially how many of the actors were legitimate Icelandic actors because I didn't recognise anyone, and I was expecting to just see, with this being a Will Ferrell movie, I was expecting to just see, oh look, there's Paul F. Tompkins for 10 seconds, and oh, here's Jonah Hill for a minute, and I thought it was going to be that kind of thing.
I know at least one of the actors, sorry to interrupt, but one of the actors, the guy who's like the minister or something, and then he turns out to be a villain later on.
I love
in the
him.
film.
He's in Sex Education, and
Yeah.
he is the best. And I
Yep, I was gonna
adore him,
say.
and I want to marry him. That's what I have to say about that.
I was going to say about him because when I first saw him, I was like, oh, he must be Icelandic then if he's here. But no, apparently he's Swedish. So I think they did a lot of sort of Scandi casting.
Yeah, it's all the same, isn't it? But I think they did seem to go for Europeans at least, which is a good start.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Sort of.
But presumably this has been paid in some way from Europe. Do you know what I mean? I know Netflix has been involved somehow, but I think it's probably been made with European money. And so part of the agreement is like, oh, you film in Europe, use European actors or whatever. Like, I assume it's all part of the deal.
Yeah.
I did recognise one guy who's called Thomas Lemakis. I'm sure I'm absolutely just not pronouncing that remotely close to accurately, but I recognised him because he is in X-Men Apocalypse, is it? He plays Steve Merchant's character from Logan.
Was he like in Pierce Brosnan's house at the start? Is this still in the flashback?
No, he's on the committee, the Eurovision committee.
Okay, yeah.
Him and a woman with a very severe haircut.
Blonde.
Yeah.
I love him.
But he was the only person I recognised. I've definitely seen him in a few things.
Okay, what basically is set up? Yeah, we see them as kids, and then we jump 45 years into the
Volcano
future.
Man.
To them doing a kind of
Which
music video, which
would
turns
make
out
Rachel
is
McAdams a lot older than she appears.
the
to
characters
be.
should be in their early 50s. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
according to the dates, unless this is set in like 2007 or something.
Should they? I don't know about that because to be honest, I was surprised that Pierce Brosnan was playing Will Ferrell's dad. Like, and then I was like, oh no, actually, I guess how old is Will Ferrell? He's like late
15 years his senior, I believe.
Well, he's
15
in
years.
his
Pierce
50s.
Brosnan's senior.
No, Pierce Brosnan is 15
Yeah,
years.
Oh, right,
Will
okay.
Ferrell's senior.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but Rachel McAdams is probably a similar age. She'll be about mid 40s now.
41.
Is she 41? Okay.
I think she's 11 years younger than Will Ferrell, which is not a crazy age gap, but
But like you could argue that they're 40 and Will Ferrell's play younger, but it's very specifically 1974 in that first thing. He's 8, she's 6 or something. It's like they're 50. Like you can't really do anything about that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But whatever.
did you think this film was weirdly shot, or is that just me?
Yes, I did. Not weirdly exactly, but just
My girlfriend, I think, summed it up really nicely. Who I was watching it with, she said it's the most HD film I think I've ever seen. It seemed like it was filmed on, I don't know, it was more when they were in natural lighting outdoors. It just seems so hyper crisp, like
digital.
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it definitely felt like TV rather than film. But
it reminded me of watching The Hobbit in high frame rate.
Well, I guess it. I mean, when you're used to seeing Will Ferrell, you probably are used to seeing him with that sort of more filmic look. In a film that's been
Filtered.
shot for actually filmed on film stock or treated as such and seen in a
about
cinema
that.
and that kind of stuff. But
I don't think Adam McKay's made a movie on film stock. It's all about Will Ferrell comedy's born out of digital we can just leave the camera running for 20 takes and don't have to worry about the
But there
economy of
there
it.
is still a way of shooting a film that looks cinematic as opposed to shooting a film for television, and often that's a criticism that people make of like Game of Thrones, for example, because they were shooting that with feature film quality, which looks really good when you're in an edit suite and in a HBO like screening room, but when you're actually trying to stream it on your computer at like 12 a.m. or whatever, it's not exactly the same effect.
Would you like to know one of the only big laugh out loud jokes in the film for me?
Okay.
Is it at the beginning?
No, it's a tangent relevant to this, because it's when the American guy comes up to him at a fountain and goes, "Do you know if this is where they shot GOT?" And I really laughed at that. But then I looked it up and it actually is a filming location from Game of Thrones, and I only found it funny because I thought it wasn't.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Apparently it's one of the castles in, I don't know if that fountain specifically, but yeah, apparently it's some castle they shot at in Edinburgh or
Oh, I thought they were shot
Scotland.
over in Ireland. Huh.
I mean, most of what I've seen of Game of Thrones so far, I'm working my way through it. I'm on episode 6 or something. Most of it was shot where I went on holiday last year in
Dubrovnik.
Croatia, was it? Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, that's Game of Thrones. But yeah, that was one of the only points I laughed at. And I mean, that's like, what, 45 minutes into the film, an hour?
Get out of
something
here.
Like that?
Like,
Okay.
I will say, like, the one thing I did right first was I think there was room for more jokes here. I think they had the ability to make it a little bit... There was an opportunity for them to just throw in a couple more jokes, but I still found it very funny and
But do you
entertaining.
think they were really going for a kind of high comedy here? I think this is just a basic romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy was not... I think because it's Will Ferrell, you think comedy, but they were really
I think
downplaying it.
that's my issue with it. Yeah, I think that's
That's
it.
why
I
I
think
liked
David
it.
Dobkin wanted to make quite a light sort of rom-com, like you say.
Yeah.
And I was expecting more of a comedy showcase. And
Yeah.
the thing is, though, that tonally it could have been this kind of lighter thing, but then there's still all these elements that are very Will Ferrell comedy. You know, they keep having what's the character called? Demi Lovato, is it her character coming back as a ghost, and that's pure
It's so
walk hard.
funny!
Like they have the bit.
I really liked that.
No, because it's so tonally out of place.
Well,
and when
yeah,
it
and
finally
it just
comes
came
back,
to
it's
nothing
like a different
as well,
film.
which I guess was the joke.
And the bit with the elves at the end, where it turns out.
I loved that. I think
But again, that's pure Will Ferrell movie. I'd expect that in Anchorman or Talladega Nights,
Yeah.
but not in this film that's been fairly set in reality for the most part. It's not.
Well, I think the big problem with it is that you're trying to make a film. Obviously, they're not going to make an awful lot of money out of this in America, perhaps, where Eurovision is not as big a thing. This needs to sort of travel all throughout Europe, and obviously, comedy is so different depending on the region. And I think Will Ferrell's style of comedy is maybe a little bit more sort of, if they're dubbing this into other languages, it might not necessarily translate. So I think that's why the focus of the film is more on the romance side, because they are looking at this, okay, who's going to be watching this? Eurovision's really big all over Europe, probably bigger in a lot of other European countries than it is even here. So I think that's why they've made those decisions, and they want to invest you in the love story more than the comedy.
So the plot is essentially that this band is shit, even though they seem every bit as good as any other band we see perform in the film at any other
Yeah,
point.
they're not kind
But
of
we're
comically
repeatedly
shit enough,
told they are
they?
shit.
Yeah. Well, what we see them, things go wrong, like they fuck up the stagecraft, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where they're embarrassing themselves. But ultimately, they have to kind of have a song that sounds good, so we have to believe in them in that way, I guess.
Even before that, the joke is surely, where they get into the Eurovision Song Contest qualifiers because they've got 11 people chosen and they need a 12th entry, and the guy just goes, I'll just pick one out of this box, just one of the entrants at random. That, we all know who's going to win. It's not going to be any of these guys, so just pick one. And, I don't think that's how it works, but I can ignore that, it's fine. The joke surely is, it's like Mr. Bean, the movie, where he's a buffoon who gets hired in to be this museum's diplomat who has to look after Whistler's mother. I mean, that's a reference, everyone. is surely very familiar with.
I don't think that a narrative necessarily needs to be a continuous act of surprise or doing something unexpected. I think you can sort of be on a track, but so long as, things like you say, like Rachel McAdams is really funny there.
So then they go off to Edinburgh, and I think the most egregious bit of... I've heard there's a lot of inaccuracy in this film regarding how Eurovision works. Like, it really annoyed me, this, because they go in the mini fridge in Scotland, and there's not a single can of Iron Brew.
Ew.
And that would it'd be Iron Brew
It's
extra,
ridiculous.
Diet Iron Brew. Yeah.
Signed.
But then the stadium that they filmed in, I believe, was the Tel Aviv stage from a previous Eurovision. I think.
Yeah, Eurovision was in Israel last year, 2019, 2018 maybe, and they filmed some audience stuff there. And so, at Warner Brothers Studios in Leavesden, they recreated the stage. And that's where I was. That's where I was working on the...
So why didn't you regale us with that story, Alan? Because I genuinely want to know.
You look directly down the barrel of the lens.
What are you talking about? I keep a low profile.
So, when they first do a rehearsal on the stage, in the
I saw this
competition-
knobhead sort of like slouching over, and I thought, well, that looks a bit like him, but that's definitely not him.
and there's like 3 guys in black, and one of the one nearest to Will Ferrell, the one that you can really see the full profile of, the one that's looking directly at you, that one's Alan.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, look, the point is, I was hired as an extra on Eurovision, and I was hired to be stage security. So basically, they've got a fake crew for the stage, and I was the security guy. But then that particular day, they were like, "Oh, we can't see security guys, and we need more techies. Put this T-shirt on." So I was a techie for the day. So I was a stagehand, and so we were putting the wire on Will Ferrell. Obviously, not really putting the wire on him because that's not safe. But another couple of days, they threw me in with the audience, like put a bright coloured shirt on and like hold this Belarusian flag and all that sort of stuff. So they kind of moved us around a bit just to fill in gaps. But for the most part, I was supposed to be security guy. And it was quite good because I was on it for a filming block of about 2 weeks every day. And like us as the security group, there was about 15 of us as security and stage crew. And because we were just off to the sides, they wanted us there all the time just because they were filming on the stage and they might just pan across and see people in the background. But ultimately, they knew we weren't going to see us, so they just let us be all day. So we just hung out and messed about all day and didn't do much. And then occasionally they were like, "Oh, we need you to come and do this." And that's why they kept throwing us in the audience and stuff. To give you some idea of the slapdashery that was going on in this film, which I think is pretty standard for most films, but they were trying to figure out what the hell we were doing with the audience. I overheard one of the crew going to the second AD, who helps organise extras, basically going to her about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and said, "Can we get 200 more people for tomorrow?" And she was just like, let me make some phone calls. But like they were just on the fly. They were making up as they were going along. It was pretty ridiculous, some things that were going on. But, obviously pretty standard.
Do you know if
film.
Natasha Dimitriou was meant to be in the film? Because it really just seemed like...
I wanted more of her.
What's the other one called? It really seemed like Stathlet's Flatsman, the boy one, had been cast in the film. And then he went, "Oh, my sister's here if you wanted to pop in." And then... I really like Natasha Dimitriou. She's in the What We Do in the Shadows TV series that's on at the minute, and she's very good in that.
She has her own comedy duo as well with another woman.
But I didn't know who those guys were, but like some of the people I was working with, they recognised them because they're on TV and stuff. So, we thought, oh yeah, they're going to be a big part of the film. Just watch the film and they're kind of introduced as like, oh, they're here to help knock them into shape. And nothing really comes of it. They're totally wasted.
Well, she's barely in it.
But like that's a whole plot point where there's a montage where they're helping them learn the dance moves and they're actually getting good instead of just being rubbish, or they're throwing in ridiculous ideas and they're having to go, "Oh no, I don't think that'll work," or they're having conflict or something.
It was a bit annoying that she's doing that same Greek accent she brings out for everything I've ever seen her in, and it's like,
is that just her accent?
No, she's got quite a posh London voice most of the time, I think, but she just loves going into a little, Cypriot accent.
I'm basically a really wacky loose cannon. You never know where I'm going to fire it off. Maybe in your face. Watch out. I'm insane in the men's brain. Absolute typical nutcase. You never know even what's going to come out of my mouth. Amanda.
I mean, I think it's valid here. You're at Eurovision and everyone's sort of going like, "Oh yes, darling, let's like do a thing." Like we're doing a
It's
thing.
just, I don't know, because like I say, I watch her in What We Do in the Shadows, and she's playing a vampire of I think nondescript Eastern European origin.
Transylvania.
So she's just doing that voice all the time, and I like it there. And it's just, I don't know, it felt like it was infringing upon this better show that I wanted it to leave alone. Anyway, Alan ruins his scene by gurning at the
Dominating
camera while Will Ferrell's trying to get through.
Trying to
doing some
act.
acting. Yeah.
Look, obviously I saved that scene, so that one was all right. But
I completely lost myself in this movie and forgot to rate the songs out of 10, which is ghastly. So I'll just go back and do that quickly. Volcano Man is at a 9, and if we count this scene as Double Trouble, that's a 9 as well.
In
There we
what
go.
world? You? Oh my god,
I
that is
will.
absolute bullshit.
Eurovision World.
Volcano
Double Trouble
Man
is so good. Double Trouble is an absolute banger. You're talking to the person who will die on the hill that is Scooch with flying the flag. So
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. With these kinds of officially sanctioned films, if it's a film based on something and it's like the Elton John film, like, oh, what do you know? Elton John comes off pretty well in it. Or Bohemian Rhapsody, where, produced by Brian May, and it's like, well, Brian May seems like a reasonable, nice man after coming out of that film. And I did kind of think like, oh, is this going to be really sort of like stuffy and pompous and Eurovision thinking it's all? But I thought it was really nice that they could poke fun at themselves like that and make fun of the block voting.
But that's it, isn't it? Eurovision knows exactly what it is and what its appeal is.
Yeah.
I don't think it got into that enough. Like, there wasn't a single joke about the fact that Israel blatantly isn't in Europe. If they're going for those...
What do you mean Israel? Australia is in Eurovision.
Is it?
Yeah.
it's just our empire.
I don't think it got into that at all. It felt very safe. And.
But what are they going to say? We get it made choices that were not safe, but you think they're safe because they're not the choices that are usually made. For example, Dan Stevens playing George Michael from Russia. Mwah!
That's perfect.
That's quite safe. After Disney made $1 bajillion off of that Beauty and the Beast remake.
No,
It's like, oh yeah, lots of women quite fancy Dan Stevens. He's a legitimate sex symbol now. He's got some music chops, even though we're not going to make him sing. We're going to dub him in with someone.
That was an odd choice.
when you sing in a movie or a piece of media, when you're a singer and you have a song and blah, 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 singing means sex. If they like your singing voice, it means they want to have sex with you. That's usually what happens in the movies.
Will Ferrell keeps his actual singing voice and Rachel McAdams doesn't.
Because I liked that choice as well. I'm so sick of them casting actors who can't fucking sing for shit.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
get a professional
Yes, thank
singer
you. Oh
in.
my God, yes.
Like it's singing in the goddamn
Yeah.
rain, and let's hear some decent songs sang beautifully by professional artists.
But again, Will Ferrell...
Yeah, and it's pure sex. Pure sex when he sings.
Where the mountains sing through the screams of seagulls, where the world can't live 'cause they're gentle people. In my hometown, where the northern
I mean, maybe there is vanity in it because it is a Will Ferrell movie and maybe he wants to do that. But also, like, she is the one, she has the show-stopping number that, like, changes hearts and minds and all that kind of stuff. And if it had just been Rachel McAdams, it's like Kristen Bell doing her own singing in Frozen. It's like, okay, you can just about get through this, but you're not blowing anyone away. And I agree with Emily so much. I think that part of the death of the movie musical has been that they just cast actors for the sake of casting a big name as opposed to someone with an actually good voice.
Yeah, but there's an easy fix for this, which is you don't let Will Ferrell play the lead. You get John C. Reilly in.
But then
Boom.
the movie wouldn't
Solved.
exist. Do you know what I mean?
I think John C. Reilly is much more bankable than Will Ferrell now.
The worst thing about this movie is that Will Ferrell had to be in it. But there was enough in this movie that you could just be like, okay, he's doing his thing. He's got the odd funny line. I'll give him that.
I'm not sure he has. Well, then there's that terrible montage that's just like a load of famous people, and it was like, okay, this must be all the Eurovision people. I did recognise
Genuinely not even get like a Pitch Perfect vibe enjoyment out of just a bunch of people coming together and doing a remix.
You just put the words pitch perfect and enjoyment in the same sentence there. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know why I talk to you guys so often.
But yeah, it was. It just felt so egregious and like to be honest, what I thought was, I know why they're doing this, and I also know why this film isn't made for me.
There was a brief moment where a woman showed up and sang, I think it was "Do You Believe in Life After Love?" And for a second I was like, is that Cher? She looks about 20 years too young, but I know she's had a lot of work done, so I genuinely couldn't tell. I mean, maybe this speaks to something about Eurovision I don't get, but like, they go out on stage, they give a pretty reasonable performance, although they kind of fall over at the end and embarrass themselves. Then everyone in Iceland is like, well, that was the worst performance I've ever seen. Graham Norton is openly disparaging, like, well, that was absolutely the worst thing I've ever seen. And
Graham Linehan.
And then they start getting loads of third and second and first place positions.
If you'd have watched
in the
two
voting.
people nearly
So
die
people loved
on
it.
stage, would you not vote for them?
Yeah, I would,
mean, there was a
but then
moment
I don't buy that everyone in Iceland would be going, this is the worst thing
They
I've
were
ever seen.
embarrassed.
Sorry about that, guys. And I don't buy that Graham Norton would be there going, well, what a load of shit. I think he'd be going,
Much
Well, obviously,
smaller
you've obviously
thing.
never seen Graham Norton doing
Really?
Eurovision then, because that's
no,
what
I
he does.
haven't. I
Yeah,
haven't.
no,
Is that what it's
that's
like?
that's his whole shtick. His whole shtick is that he does kind of take the piss out of it and sort of make disparaging comments. A few years ago, there was a stage invasion for the British entry.
Yeah.
Emily might remember this, and there was a moment. It wasn't anything like that. It was someone like ran up, grabbed the microphone from her, and she couldn't, sing a song for about 20 seconds or something. And then she picked up the microphone and went straight on. But that was a bit of drama, and there was kind of collective sort of like gasps of just like, because you just don't expect something like that. So if something like that did happen and the pyrotechnics completely failed and, this terrible thing happened, I think there would be sort of stunned silence. And I get that Rachel McAdams' character would feel quite embarrassed about that, because obviously you want it to be, this perfect choreographed thing, and, they're certainly naive characters, and I think they don't think of it as like, oh, well, we did half a good performance and then at least we're going to be memorable. I thought it
That all
was
makes sense to
handled
me.
quite
Yeah, it
nicely,
goes
actually.
totally tits up. But people are like, hey,
Yeah.
it's Eurovision. Yay.
Yeah.
We've got vote for the stupid one. Yay. That's what they do. You've got to remember, Saul, this is, or a lot of them, it's like a public vote. Half of it is a public vote.
Oh, really?
So it is just, there's no kind of consensus
right.
of like
And,
what's
like,
good music or not.
And I think if your sort of criticisms are that like they didn't shit on Eurovision enough, or that there was too many like random Eurovision stuff happening, that's the
something
movie.
you keep defending against, but I don't think it's really something we've been saying. It's not
Yeah.
that we need it to
Very
make fun of Eurovision
No, but-
more. It's that we need it to be funny or
Yeah, but you're
in
also
some way
saying
different from
cut
reality.
all of the bits that are Eurovision.
No, I'm not. I'm saying cut all the bits that are not funny or
Cut it because it's poor story structure. It's like
Yeah,
this big
exactly.
chunk that's not telling us anything new. It's not adding anything.
But I liked
And I
it.
think that's what I'm saying. There's
I
not a
liked
lot
it.
of story going on here, and it's padded out with a lot of other stuff. And you like it because you're just like, hey, it's like I'm watching Eurovision. Yay!
Yeah.
It's not been allowed to go on this year, so I needed this. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really disputing it, to be honest with you. It's not for me, I suppose. And obviously it works for its target audience.
Absolutely, I would say so. It's so heavily implied that Pierce Brosnan like sleeps with everyone in this town because he's Pierce Brosnan, and like literally he's related to everyone in this town, and he's the only son that is still living with him and doesn't have a job and just has these stupid dreams, and is like, I completely got it, and I accepted it, and I was like, fine.
I don't think that's like
Yeah.
a Pierce Brosnan joke so much as just an Iceland joke, though. I mean, Iceland's known for struggling with incest. They it's such a
Can we
small
quote- can we quote you
population
on
in
that
Iceland.
song?
No, genuinely.
There goes our Icelandic audience.
When you say struggling with incest, you don't mean they're all trying to do it. You mean there's such a small population, it's hard to avoid your cousins.
No, yeah, it's such a small population. They have an app like Tinder and things that basically if you meet someone in a bar on a night out or whatever, you kind of scan your app together and it checks your family lineage and it goes, right, you might be second cousins. And that's a thing.
Maybe it does stem from that, but I think it was because Will Ferrell constantly refers to Pierce Brosnan being handsome, and it's constantly like, a couple of people say, like, Piers Brosnan slept with every woman in this town, and all of these children are his, and...
Someone in the
Yeah,
pub
I think they're
says, someone in the
playing
pub says,
up
like,
the-
oh, half the kids in this town are yours, and he just kind of goes, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Pierce Brosnan.
That final performance of her singing My Hometown, honestly, you guys, like, I was crying again, and I do every time I hear that song, which I have, I immediately downloaded the soundtrack, and when I heard that song, I immediately downloaded the karaoke MP3 for that particular song, and I set about learning the lyrics, because I heard the first line, and I was like, oh my god,
Do you cry at the Christmas John Lewis ads?
No, I hate them. I genuinely hate them. I'm a complex person with
that's
layers.
good. You can stay then. Okay, good. Like an ogre.
Peter's asked in the comments that he'd like to see an episode where you and I, Alan, defend a film that Emily doesn't like. So I was wondering if we could figure out what that would
must
be.
have
I know
done that,
you're not a big
surely.
fan of Grizzly Man, are you, Emily? That's come up before.
No, I don't like Grizzly Man.
I'll go to bat for Grizzly
How
Man.
can you not like Grizzly Man?
I
What's
think
not to
Werner
like?
Herzog...
All right, here we go. We're doing it.
Werner Herzog edits it in a very unfair way. As with all documentaries, he chooses that narrative, and I don't agree with the narrative that he chose to tell with that footage that he had.
Oh, he's a big...
I can't remember the guy's name. What's his name?
Timothy something.
Treadwell.
Timothy
Timothy
Treadwell, that's it. Do you think the raw footage is out there of Timothy Treadwell talking to bears? Because I would love to watch that and sort of compare it to the edited together version. Because my feeling is that Herzog probably just plays the footage as it is.
But in what order?
That film really feels like... Why are you talking? Because I'm bored of Europe. Don't you think it feels like if someone went into the archive of Chris Chandler videos and just put a load of them together, it wouldn't be a flattering documentary, but I don't know, is it the person's fault who's putting it together?
Because
it's just
he specifically creates this narrative that makes you watch this poor guy go crazier and crazier and crazier until he is inevitably eaten by bears. But I don't think it was as simple as that. And I think there was a lot of factors that he didn't make room for in this documentary. And it was just a very unfair... I think if I died because of, like, something crazy, like I was eaten by bears because I hang out with them every summer...
We would
and then
absolutely put that out as a podcast. Definitely.
This is the elephant in the room. Wait, what's a Werner Herzog thing?
This is the elephant.
Yes, there it is. You must destroy it. Otherwise it will drive you crazy.
You must
never
destroy
listen
this
to
tape.
it.
Sold as a good one.
I mean, you just got to go with big words, don't you? Eurovision is a celebration of the futility of man's soul's desire to escape from the harness of its body. Who do you think we should enter next year? I think we should get Billie Eilish, because she's just knocking it out of the park now, apparently.
England should just be putting Scooch in every year. We pay for it. We never have
don't
to
know what
audition.
Scooch is.
Scooch flying
We
the flag.
paid for Scooch. We want some.
They were
something back
shit
from
steps.
Them.
What's
Scooch
Scooch?
is like poor man's steps.
Can we hire ABBA?
They're split up. You can hire Benny and
Yeah,
Bjorn.
but they got back together for an album
Hasn't
last
Robbie
year, didn't
Williams
they?
tried to do it a couple of times? But the thing, they're like, no British artist is going to do it because they know they won't get any points. It doesn't matter how good you are at this particular time in history. So no good artists are doing it. It's just someone who's like young and happy for the attention.
Should we do it? Should we put a Diminishing Returns song together?
Do it.
I think we're at Eurovision's level.
Piff
don't you?
Paff Puff.
All right, I think I had to check up because I recently got Letterboxd, which is like
Is
a
that-
movie
is that a sexual
review app. And I think Eurovision was the first film I rated.
Wait a minute, I genuinely don't know what letterboxed means.
Alan, I want to hear your take on what that sex act would be.
You'd have to be behind a door. And I guess it's just a sort of strangely shaped glory hole, isn't it?
No, because a glory hole doesn't have those bristles on it. That you get.
That's why it's different. That's the kinky bit.
Yeah.
You can't get out once you're in. You can't get it back out.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you
Like a
mean,
beast.
Calvin? What are you on about?
Is Letterboxd like a Rotten Tomatoes type thing, or?
No, it's like an app. It's a bit it's just like a social media thing, but for
okay.
movies and stuff. So you follow people and stuff, and then you can see when people have put their little reviews. But there's no kind of like, I think with Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and those kinds of things, there's a pressure to sort of write an essay, basically. Whereas this is like, it can just be whatever. It can be like literally a tweet. You can just put out whatever you want. Anyway, Eurovision was the first thing I rated on there, and I rated it 7 out of 10, which I think is actually, I'm going to be rewatching it soon anyway, but I think this conversation... As I enjoyed it. I can see it going up in my estimations, though. Because before I looked at that, I was ready to give it an 8, but my past self gave it a 7. So we'll go with that.
Wow. If we're holding up our screens to camera, this is my.
Are you on Animal Crossing?
Yeah, this is my Animal Crossing Evil Dead cabin in Animal Crossing. Like, I've put there's the deadite there coming out the floor, and if we go over here, load time. See, this is the kitchen from Evil Dead. You see, it's good, isn't it? I can take you. I've got a wicker man on my island and everything. It's really good.
I don't. Yeah.
I've never
really
seen
Animal
Crossing. Is it like Sims, but like
I don't know what it is.
for children?
It's not even.
But it's.
I
more
I
like a
can't
Nintendo
stop playing this
world.
game, and it's not even. I'm not even sure it's that good. Look, here's the basement. I've got a film projector there. You can't really see it.
Do you have the
but
blood
it's
running
dark and
down the
spooky.
wall, down the
Look, there's a
film
skeleton
projector?
in the corner. It's brilliant. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't even like Animal Crossing, but I've logged about 200 hours into this one.
What
200
the hell?
That's ridiculous.
I think-
I got Pokemon last year and I've only done like 58 hours, and that's a game I
Clearly
like.
spending too much time on the toilet, so it's not going to do you any good.
We're in a lockdown, right? It's,
Hang on, was this? I was expecting this to segue into a review of Eurovision.
I mean, no one wants a truncated thing that's purely about Eurovision Song Contest, the Story of Fire Saga, do they? I'm trying to give everyone else a bit of something to latch onto.
Yes, everyone really wants to listen to your Animal Crossing opinions.
I think we should have done the Animal Crossing movies, to be honest. I think that would have got
There are
far
movies?
more
Is that a
interest.
thing? I don't want to know.
There was an anime
No.
film in 2006, and they recently remade it, and I think it was just the same film again. I give Eurovision 4 out of 10.
All right, Alan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand that it's for a particular audience. I quite like that people will make a major film for quite a niche audience.
Niche is the whole of Europe.
What I'm saying is, this film is not made to please the palate of any audience. It's made for a Eurovision audience. That is a niche audience, no matter how big it is. Yes, it's big enough that they can justify doing it. That's fine. What I'm saying is, I'm happy that they've done that. I'm perfectly okay with that. I do think the film, however, could have been a lot better. I think on a purely filmmaking level, it's not very good. And I give it 5 out of 10.
Emily, do you want to end us on a high?
A high, actually, because you guys round up, don't you? So if I were to give it an 8.5, that would fundamentally make it a 9. So put that on your Excel document, Saul.
Do you want to hear an anecdote about the director on set of Eurovision?
Yeah.
I think I've told you this before.
Yeah,
but
give
I
us
don't-
all
I
the
don't know if
dirt
it was on
now.
episode.
All the dirt.
There was one bit where they're doing the scene with... they were doing one of the songs and someone got lowered down on a wire. And so...
That's the bit you're in, Alan.
No, not that bit. It was a different one. And... So the stunt team, there's 2 blokes there with a rope and they're pulling it and letting it go to move her up and down, right? But they're just not getting the timing right. And they take a couple of takes at it, and then the director comes storming over. He's like, come on, what the fuck do you need to be told, man? It goes down at this point. When that comes in, and he's like shouting at them. So they're just like, whatever. But the stunt director, who is obviously, they're his guys, he like comes over, he's like, look, what are you going to fucking talk to me like that, right? You got to tell us, do you want it to come down on the note or before the note so she's there? And like they're going back and forth. And then the director storms off in a huff. And then the stunt director was just sort of wandering around for a good sort of 10 minutes with his guys just going, fucking talk to me like that, little prick, I'll fucking knock his brains out, mate. Fucking kick his fucking head in. It's very sort
Jesus.
of, you know, classic kind of LA director and like a Cockney geezer going at it. So there was a bit of tension on set. But it was a
interesting.
bit of a stressy set, but I think that's fairly normal. Like, people losing their rag and stuff, but it was pretty good energy. So I saw them doing scenes on the stage. Basically, any scene on the stage, I saw them doing it. So I saw them improving the scenes. They do the scene several times, and Will Ferrell would throw out a slightly different line each time. None of them were funny, and we saw him doing the stunt where they're in the hamster wheel, and he goes off, and she gets dragged into it. And with that, the stunt girl they had. Obviously, they had basically a rope attached to her and just pulled her so that she went flat onto her back and got dragged along. And they did it a few times, and one time she just whacked her head on the thing, and then she was crying and stuff. Like, not kind of pain, it was she was in shock, and they just sort of whisked her off. That was a nice health and safety one on that. But she got paid for it, I guess. So.
You want to be a star, kid?
Yeah. So can I ask Calvin a question? You heard that Pierce Brosnan was filming in Iceland and went to catch him, didn't you?
No, I did not. By happy coincidence, I'm sure people who are regular listeners to this show might have already heard this story, but I was just in Iceland for my 30th birthday celebrations and was going to the Blue Lagoon Spa, and Pierce Brosnan just happened to be there.
When was this?
As I was. And
roughly?
October.
They would have been filming in Iceland.
Yeah, October last year. I'm assuming that they must have just finished filming, because when I saw him, he still had his big bushy beard. And then later on, a few weeks later, I think his wife had put some stuff on her Instagram and he'd lost the beard, but he was still in Iceland. So I'm guessing they finished and then they were at the spa and then maybe he shaved and that. So I'm guessing that was his
probably on the production
post-filming treat.
Did you talk to him?
No. It's
stared at him
really
from
lame.
the
I was like... Well, I did, because like when you first go to the Blue Lagoon, because it was my birthday, we paid for like the extra special package thing that you can do. I'm not gonna say it was my 30th birthday celebrations, but they have this like room and with like a bar area, and they take you to. There's someone showing you around, saying you pick up your towels from here. This is the bar. This is where you go to get into the water and that kind of thing. And then as I was walking down, there was this whole like sort of line, like a booth of chairs, and it was just like, well, that's an incredibly dapper looking older Icelandic man, because he just looks like all the like 60-year-olds there have these great like beards and all look very handsome, and it's like, God, he looks just like Pierce Brosnan. He really looks like Pierce Brosnan. I think it is Pierce Brosnan. And then he sort of made eye contact with me and was obviously that looked away.
That looks like Calvin Dyson.
And then me and my partner went into the changing room to get changed, and he was just very like sort of like, oh, this is great, isn't it? Let's get changed and go and do the things. And I was like, I think there's Pierce Brosnan out there, and he's not a Bond fan. He didn't give a shit, so it's like, oh, whatever. And then we went out, and then it was like, well, the guy had gone, so it was like, well, I guess I'll never know if it really was Pierce Brosnan or not. But then later on, when we were in the actual water in the Blue Lagoon, and it was just the two of us swimming around, we turned a corner, and all of a sudden, like on the next level up from where we were, Pierce Brosnan was just there, shirtless, like coming out of the water, like doing his hair and everything. And it was like, oh, fuck, it's him. And then his wife was there as well, and for a while we ended up going into their pool, and we were just sort of swimming around. His wife said hi. And then that was.
Did you go and sort of swim in the water just behind him to sort of feel his wake?
We were in the same area. Like, it was literally just the four of us in this area for 15 minutes, something like that.
Nice.
It was, yeah. And I couldn't pluck up the courage to say anything. I was trying to think of like his like lesser known passion projects, like Evelyn, or a film that nobody has seen, so I could be like, oh, because he
you could have just gone, excuse me, mate, are you the bloke out of Evelyn? You just look kind of familiar.
Yeah. Oh, I like Tom Patton at IT. Yeah, that's the film to bring up.
That's adorable. It's hard when you meet your the rule is never meet your heroes anyway, and then
yeah, it was Hugh has just said in the comments that he once met Tom Cruise, which I think is quite a claim.
Yeah.
And he's also said and it was physically painful, which, yeah.
He was a stuntman.
So I was going to say, he
Impossible 6.
insists on doing them all for real, doesn't he? Climbing up buildings and things.
Oh, and Tom met Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as well.
Nice.
That's cool.
Did they know? We just sort of met them through a window.
The thing is with Pierce Brosnan, he definitely had, him and his wife were in like a separate part of like, we'd paid for the VIP package, but there was a VIP.
You're saying
area.
Pierce Brosnan snuck into the VIP area?
Well, there was like a hatch because they give you these wristbands, and we're like, yes, we can access everywhere. And we came across this little hatch in the water, and we were like, of course we can go through here with our wristbands, and then we couldn't. And we were like, okay, well, whatever. And then later on, him and his wife, well, they must have come out of it. We saw them going back into it, where I guess they escaped to their private place where they didn't have to be near people like me gawking at them.
Calvin, just roughly, how, you and your boyfriend, that's 2 people, what it cost for this holiday. Would it have been enough to have someone killed?
I don't know how much it is to have someone killed.
Alan, tell us,
$8,000.
how much does it cost?
$8,000.
What kind of death is that?
That's a bit low.
$8,000.
Yeah, really.
Oh, I'm not saying it'll be done well, but
Actually,
I
yeah,
think
how much
double
was he
that
going to pay
maybe.
that guy in Tiger King? How much? Because that was not much. I remember thinking like,
Yeah, but that was America.
Yeah, but he
Everything's
didn't
pretty
do
cheap
it.
out there.
He drove down to Florida and cried, didn't he?
But in Iceland, everything is very expensive.
Yeah,
actually,
super expensive in Iceland.
Yeah, it's like really sort of like we were sort of like going to the hotel
£12 for a
breakfast and
beer.
stuffing our bags with. Yeah, no, it's ridiculously expensive there.
well, Calvin, how much would you pay to have someone killed?
Because
obviously you don't want to go low because you're not going to trust that it's getting done right. It's got to be reassuringly expensive.
Why are you asking me this?
I think if I was going to actively get someone killed, I would do it myself. You want a job done, do it yourself.
Wow.
You know?
Is that an honourable thing or is that?
Yes, my culture. It's
You
the way
just
I was
enjoy
brought
it.
up.
You just enjoy doing it yourself.
All right. Well, how would you do it then?
How would I kill
The
someone?
old ice bow and arrow.
Is this Alan's new business pitch? Peter said, I like that, scoping out the market.
You slowly build up a tolerance to arsenic or some other poison
It's
over
got
the
to be
course of
poison,
months.
hasn't it?
And then you
Woman's
put
weapon.
poison in the food, but you eat it as well. So you don't die. You've built up a tolerance. So it looks like
That's a
someone
real
poisoned
thing.
all of you, and you didn't do it. So you're not a suspect, because why would you eat poison? But they die.
That is actually a real thing, Sol. I don't know if you are just sort of remembering this, because I remember maybe we didn't talk about it, but I did read an article that there was a lady who ended up poisoning her husband with arsenic, and apparently you can build up a resistance to that, and eventually she ate the same meal as he did that eventually killed him, but she'd built up a resistance to it by eating a raw potato every day. Because apparently in raw potatoes there is a level of arsenic, and it's not enough to kill
Is it
anyone.
worth it? It's not worth it.
But surely to build up a resistance, you have to increase the potatoes each day.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You have to by the time you're eating 14 potatoes a day, you're safe. How big does the potato have to be?
Right, I went to the toilet before,
All
all right? So I missed a few minutes there. But I do see that Tom Patton has commented on the chat, Americans get confused by fairy liquid. So what did I miss?
I don't know. That's not.
Well, Tom's not
relevant
there
to
anymore. He
anything we're
can't
talking
clarify
about.
his comments.
It was
wasn't
that Americans are cheap, so they don't know how the Tiger King killer was cheap because
Okay.
in comparison to what you would for a good proper British assassination.
Well, have we done Eurovision there? I think that's...
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
wrapped.
Okay, so guess what's coming up in the coming weeks, guys. It's really, really good. Did anyone crack the
Wow.
code?
Wow.
What?
Shall I take over, Sol? I'm gonna let's see if we can add some dramatic flair to this that works a bit better. So you may
What's
or may
happening?
have not noticed throughout the marketing over the last few weeks, there's been some drip drop of trail did anyone
On the Twitter feed specifically,
spot it?
there have been some brilliant cryptic tweets that have been alluding to our upcoming slate of episodes.
Why is this funny? I don't understand.
It's funny
why.
because it's terrible.
Yeah, I went over this with Alan
Oh.
in the recording that we've already done for next week, but it's been continuing. But yeah, you will notice that ignoring the last couple of tweets or so since I finished doing it, every tweet in order for the last few days has contained a Christopher Nolan movie in there, capitalized. Really, really subtly, yeah. So Calvin, you might have wondered why I likened you to Batman in that tweet saying you were going to be on our live episode before it begins. Stepping out from the shadows like Batman, it's Calvin Dyson.
Oh, I wondered what that was about. Yeah.
You thought Sol had finally lost it. Too much Animal Crossing.
I just didn't question it.
It just seemed appropriate.
It's probably some Electric Six song that I don't know.
So yeah, the next 3 weeks are going to be Christopher Nolan. That's what I'm getting to there, which is cool.
How many?
3.
Oh right, okay.
We're doing a full on season. His entire career, and we're going to redo those Batman films that we did do in a very early episode, like episode 9 or something. Do them properly. So come back next week for early Christopher Nolan, and then come back again for middle Christopher Nolan, and then the last few Christopher Nolans. And it's all because Tenet's coming out in the cinema, but I don't think it's actually going to come out.
Who the hell
Or
knows
is
when
it?
it'll actually come
Yeah,
out.
we'll have done these 3 episodes that tie into nothing. But that's
That's
fine.
all right. Everyone loves a bit of the Nolan chat of that.
Yeah.
Has that Purge
Or do
episode
they?
gone out yet?
Well, they're like worth discussing anyway.
Yeah, that's another thing, actually. Those of you on Patreon, there's a Purge episode coming soon that we recorded for the main feed because we started watching them and then the film got delayed, the new Purge film. So you're probably going to have that like 6 months before it goes out on the main feed, maybe early. I mean, who knows? So there you go. Fun, exciting things coming up in the
While we're
pipeline.
here with everyone, shall we take some questions if anybody has anything or requests for films or whatever?
Yeah, it's a live episode. We might as well open the floodgates. Does anyone want to come to my Animal Crossing island?
Does anyone want to go to Sol's Evil Dead?
Come and join the Diminishing Returns after party on Summer Isle in Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Ooh, Barney wants to hear my thoughts on Community now she's been watching it.
Well, wait. I am on season 5, I'm episode 1, so don't go too.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
I have
So
not
you
watched
personally
the
have
last
the
season
drink.
yet.
Okay. We've been chatting about that off
Although,
episode
to be
number
honest
1.
with you, I got to the end of season 4 a few weeks ago, and I've been busy with 1 or 2 other things, but I haven't been really compelled to go back to the well and watch more of it.
Well, yeah, but season 5's when it all goes good again. So,
But I've like worked my way through it. No, hang on, I've watched season 5. I'm on to season 6.
Oh shit! You didn't like season 5?
It's not that I didn't like it, but I have just watched the whole 5 seasons over the course of a couple of months. I'm just like,
Oh, boo-hoo, I did it in 2
Yeah,
weeks,
whatever.
Ellen. Grow up.
I wasn't forced to do it. I chose to do it, and I just feel like I've had enough. I'm not desperate to go back to it.
You are exactly the kind of guy, Alan, who would think season 6 is the best season, even though it blatantly isn't. So
Why is that then?
it's just season 6 is very aimless and like long, and they're not punching against any higher power. I think you'd be more into it. It's a bit
definitely
more
getting
like
too loose.
it's like watching Grown Ups 2. You like Grown Ups 2, don't you?
Are you joking?
I think it's just same as most things. I've seen enough of it now. There's nothing new it's offering, and I'm just like, so I'm not desperately rushing back to watch more episodes.
Yeah, I had that the first time I went into season 5. The idea of what new could they possibly do at this point?
T ... says, oh, of course, Sol, you've achieved everyone's waking dream and you completed the IMDb top 250 films. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I watched 250 films over the course of 30 years. It's not that big an achievement.
See, if I was going to do that, Sol, if I was going to do that sort of thing, I would probably strike out any films from the last, say, 6 years or something. I would have that buffer zone of like more recent films. I want a little bit of time to pass for the position to settle. You know what I mean?
No, that's because the stuff from recent years is easy because I've already seen it. The stuff that was really hard was at like number 247, 48, 49, 50. It's just Bollywood films, and they change every day. And oh my god, I found one Bollywood film I really liked in the course of watching them all. There are a few where I thought, okay, that's.
Did you like Lagan?
Yeah, it was better than most of them. It was
I
okay.
really enjoyed it.
I didn't dislike it. It was still far too long and like
They all are.
wise.
It's what Bollywood is.
I liked it. I have a gripe though. You didn't like Nausicaa. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind was in your top.
It's one of the
like
worst
I
films
hate
on the whole
these.
list.
And you actually want to fuck off. Like, how dare you? It's gorgeous.
It's awful.
Did you
It's
listen
so
to the
bad.
English cast, the dubbed cast?
No.
Okay,
Of course I
fine,
didn't.
but like, just putting it out there. The Studio Ghibli dubbed cast versions are often very good, and this one has Shia LaBeouf in it, and it's great.
Dubbing. I can't. I want the original actors.
I'm Sol
performances.
Harris. I don't do dubbing.
I don't. I really like PK. If anyone here is remotely interested in Bollywood, I really like PK. It's the one that did it for me. It's about an alien coming down to Earth. It's a fish out of water comedy. It's still like 2.5 hours long and got some stupid music bits in it. It's still very of Bollywood, but it really surprised me how mature its approach to the romantic storyline and it was. I was really surprised with where they went with it all. So that's my recommendation.
You also dislike Tokyo Story, which is a film I quite like. I quite like Yasujiro Otsu's films in general, but they are all the same. They're like exactly the same as that one.
Well, the one film that I really made an effort with the last batch of top 250 films on, as part of this lockdown, and there not being new films coming out. So the one film I watched in this period of time that really did it for me was a film called Harakiri from 1962 or 63 or something, which is classic samurai film, very in the mold of Kurosawa, but better than any Kurosawa film I've ever seen. I thought it was phenomenal, and it was one of those films where you watch it and you're like, oh, this is what Quentin Tarantino's been ripping off in every film he's ever made. Okay, right, I get it. So I really recommend that. Excellent film, like phenomenal action sequences at the end, but this kind of slow mystery that you're trying to figure out the whole way through getting there. It's great. That's my pick.
Peter says, Sol, the first 2 episodes of Kingdom didn't do much for me. Should I continue? I am enjoying iZombie though.
Probably not. If you don't like the first 2 episodes, I don't think there's anything in it for you. That's kind of what it.
If I can speak for Grace, who was here earlier, I don't know if she's still here.
She's still here.
She has recently watched the first episode of Kingdom on your recommendation, Sol, and she said she absolutely loved it. So
it's
counterpoint.
If you love that kind of zombie action, I think it's great. But if you want more plot, then it's probably not the show for you. It's not.
Is Kingdom a zombie show?
Yeah. South Korean,
Samurai
medieval
zombies.
South Korean samurai zombies. It's excellent, I think. But season 1 was. Season 2 was a bit less good.
Where do you watch it? What
It's
channel is it on?
Netflix. It's a Netflix original. Yeah.
Subtitled.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a dub on there. I don't know. I don't do dubs, Gavin.
I don't do dubs either. You should know that.
It's very South Korean, for what that's worth. Sorry.
In my defense, Studio Ghibli is really the only thing I do dubs for, and only sometimes when I'm doing other stuff and I have it on in the background. Just gonna say.
I mean, I might have liked Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind if I was doing something else and had it on in the background, but I was watching it properly, and that's why I hated it. Because nothing happened for 2 hours.
And I like that. I like all of a sudden nothing happens. I like it. Like moving wallpaper sometimes. I like it. I feel now's a good time to wrap up. And
well, thank you everyone
Yes,
for joining
thank
us for
you.
this. It was, it's been fun.
Yes, thank you ever so much, everybody. Join us next week for Chris Nolan,
Yeah.
1 of 3.
I'm not going to be on it.
You're not a big Christopher Nolan fan, are you, Calvin? You're kind of indifferent.
Yeah, I'm agnostic.
Yeah.
It's fine. Thought Interstellar was very dull.
I don't think you're alone there. Are you going to be doing another live episode anytime soon, you guys?
We have no plans.
Why not? While places are in lockdown and stuff.
I mean, honestly, this came about because Tenet got pushed back a week, and we were like, we better push back that Christopher Nolan season a week. What can we put in here?
We generally have
Live
things
one.
scheduled in a good 3 months in advance, but yeah, everything's been a bit up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we had a SpongeBob episode in the schedule, and that got delayed into
Scooby Doo got
indefinite
left out.
oblivion. Yeah, we're going to do a Scooby-Doo 2-parter, and
all
that's
the
not
ones that
happening
Alan
anytime
didn't
now,
want
'cause-
to do. I wonder why they got pushed back.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much for coming and for
Yes, thank
sticking
you very
around
much.
so late.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. Bye.
So long.
Bye.